All right, well, you hear that jingle, so you know what it means. It is time for Digging Deeper. We don't hear a jingle, they hear a jingle.
Oh.
Hey, listeners, so glad you are joining us, whether you are in your house, in your car, or from my understanding, at your church, Lighthouse Baptist in California, where, hello, Anna, Frank, your mom, right? Joining from California.
Yes.
Hi,
Hey,
Frank's
Mom.
Yes, so awesome. We're national. No, just kidding. As you see, I have some familiar guests with me. To my left, I have Pastor Joe from the Murphy campus. Joe, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good boy.
And to my right, I have Pastor Frank from the
Sunny Valley
Sunny
campus.
Valley
Oh,
campus. Yes,
yes.
there's going to be more conversation on that even later today, but Pastor Frank is getting ready to head up one of our newest campuses. And on that note, yeah, we're multiplying campuses, and multiplying disciples is what we're talking about today. That is our 8th core value. So we're really excited to kind of dig into some questions. We're just going to hop right into it, boys, unless you guys have anything else you wanted to say.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, so depending on what campus you went to, if you went to Rogue River, by the way, you both taught, which is awesome. Did you guys talk about, you guys mentioned the Great Commission?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk about baptism at all?
No.
All right. Well, Pastor Austin at Rogue River actually took an opportunity, kind of did one of those, hey, baptism has a bunch of different viewpoints. It can be a really controversial topic. Then went ahead and put it on my shoulders. Was like, talk to Tim if you have any questions. So we're talking about it. Baptism, as mentioned in the Great Commission, can have a lot of different viewpoints. And so I actually want to pick both of your guys' brains. We don't need to go too deep, but there's a lot of different point of views. Some may be on the very legalistic side, as some would say, where if you're going to heaven, you better be baptized, where some are a little too nonchalant about it, to where like, I don't necessarily maybe even see the value of baptism. I would say those are the extremes.
Sure.
Or there's a lot of area in between, which is where I would say we all probably land. So, I kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Well, there's also the argument of cradle baptism versus paedo baptism.
And real quick, unpack that for the listeners.
Cradle baptism is believer's baptism, and paedo baptism would be baptizing babies.
I think it'd be the other way around. Cradle reminds me of babies.
Well,
like
Credo.
credo. I said cradle, like rock them in the cradle.
I just got a weird speech impediment.
That's all right.
Credo.
Sound good from here.
So I just throw this question to you guys, and I'm going to let you kind of unpack it however you wish. Is it 100% necessary to be baptized as a Christian? Why or why not? Joe, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Is it 100% necessary? For the aspect of salvation, I'm just going to go there, I guess. In order to be saved into right standing with God, I do not believe you have to be immersed in water. I believe you are saved by grace through faith alone. There's no action that adds to that. It's not saved by grace plus baptism. I think there's an importance to baptism. I'm not sure there's a salvation aspect to baptism, but I can see the argument that would point to that. There's like I think a verse in Mark where Jesus says, "Go and repent and be baptized." I think it's maybe it's John the Baptist that says that, but either way, somewhere there's these New Testament that you can like see those references that say repent and be baptized. They're like hand in hand. I'm not sure Paul argues that way in more of his epistles to the early church, and so I think that's where more I land is in that. It's important, it is good, it's valuable, it maybe even is necessary, but is it required? I'd probably lean in the no category on that. What do you think, Frank?
Well, is it required to be a Christian? No. You read the thief on the cross gets saved, and he's not baptized. He ends up dying there. But you see several times in Scripture where someone's saved and then they're baptized, oftentimes that same day or right away. But I would say it's obedience. You're following the commands of God, being baptized. You are identifying with Christ in his death, burial, and resurrection as you come up. You're identifying to the covenant community that, hey, I'm a Christian. But it's, as I agree with you, it has nothing to do with salvation. You're saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone.
Yeah, but definitely you have the importance, the outward expression of the inward transformation. I mean,
Sure.
we heard that. And honestly, baptism is just, it's one of my favorite parts of a church service. It is a party. It is a celebration. So, yeah, I would agree with both of you that is it absolutely necessary? No. But is it absolutely valuable? I would say yes. And now I kind of want to address maybe 2 questions. So somebody, what would you say to somebody who professes their faith but doesn't want to get baptized? And we'll start with that one. The next question I want you two to think about, what would you say to somebody who wonders if their baptism counted? So that idea of methods of baptism, where I was baptized as a baby, did that count? I wanted to get baptized, I had a cup of water, we threw it on my head, like, does that count? So the first one is, what would you say to somebody, fellow believer, that says, I am saved, I just don't want to get baptized?
Well, so I actually had somebody in my church who had some type of physical ailment and disability that they couldn't get baptized. Whether in their wheelchair, brittle bone disease, they couldn't. We didn't have any way to like lift them out into that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we've dealt with it before.
It's a very subjective thing too, because some people have different experiences with baptism. Maybe in their church growing up, maybe they grew up with that infant baptism and that's all they know. So now there's this reluctancy of the what we do here at River Valley, the immersion baptism. So I think there's gonna be some subjectivity. It's kind of going along with what you're saying, Frank.
Yeah, I've been baptized 4 times, and I got it covered, man.
You're for sure
good.
in. You're all the way around the bases, man.
Yeah,
Like,
my parents had me christened at birth. I was baptized at like 5 or 6 years old, baptized again at 12, and then baptized again as an adult.
interesting.
So because, my parents were part of the Catholic Church growing up, so we did that. At 6 years old, I got baptized as a kid because all the other kids in the church are getting baptized. I'm like, I want to do that too.
That's funny, sure.
And then at 12, I did it again because they were doing a baptism, and they said, hey, do you believe in Jesus? You love Jesus? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So I went forward again with my peers. But as an adult, then I actually understood what I was actually doing.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just sum it up with this, gentlemen. The ultimate point of baptism is blank. Fill in the blank.
the ultimate point of baptism?
Yeah. The ultimate point of the ultimate purpose of baptism is blank.
I would say it was identifying with Christ and a profession of faith, saying, hey, this is what God's done. I'm part of the Christian community. Same reason why we wear wedding bands. We're saying we're part of this covenant with our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very well said. I do want to real quick. You asked the question about method. I had a really fun just story real quick. I interned at a church back in Michigan when I was in college, and this church we didn't have a very big space. The room was very small, but we packed in like 50 people, and there was just not like a baptismal area. I mean, Redwood doesn't have a baptismal. Rogue River, Murphy, we don't have like built-in baptismals, and so this church, similar situation, not a built-in tub, but they were in a downtown urban area. And so when a believer wanted to be baptized, a new convert or someone who wanted to rededicate their life and say, I want to be baptized, we would take them outside and we'd all like lay hands on them. And there's this big group, a bunch of punk rock kids actually. It's really cool. And we'd all be laying hands. And then somebody, 3 or 4 people would have gallons of water, like gallon jugs of water. And baptizing them, the Father, 1 gallon, the Son, another gallon, and the Spirit, another gallon. And it was just like this heroic, like you said, Tim, celebrative moment, but out on the street, like this busy downtown, suburban city area. It's a beautiful picture of someone saying, I identify with Jesus and pour the water on me. And so I don't know if method is the end all be all. I think it is. That's where's your heart at in that? What's the individual heart condition and commitment to identifying with Christ for sure.
Yeah, I would go with immersion. Was my thing for method.
Ultimately, I want the listeners to hear, I don't think Jesus is sitting there with a clipboard making sure you're checking the boxes of baptism. I think Jesus is sitting there with just a smile from ear to ear, just so excited and celebrating there for us and with us. So, all right, well, that is, if you have questions about baptism, and hey, maybe we didn't answer your questions, maybe you think we did a bad job, that email, diggingdeeper@rivervalleycc.org, is always open. And if you send me an email, I will either answer it or pitch it to one of these two to get back to you. So if you have any questions, please continue to communicate with us. That's what we want this to be, open dialogue. But now, kind of a question I don't know, it's going to be kind of fun. Get some of that context. So multiply disciples, creating disciples who create disciples. I want to look at how this looks at 3 different levels. And I think I have the right guys here for this. Not the levels of discipleship, but 3 different viewpoints. So what did this literally look like for Jesus' disciples? Okay, for the 12 or the 11. What does this look like for us as a church as a whole where I think this is going to involve this idea of church planning. And then what does this look like in an individual standpoint with personal discipleship? So, Joe, I'm going to kick that one off to you and just kind of, lead this discussion. What does that look like from the disciples' standpoint?
Yeah, so I would think, man, if I was standing there, I'm following this rabbi, this teacher. He's died, he's come back to life, and we're like, yes, he's the Messiah, and like just no qualms about it. He is the real deal. And now he says, now go and tell others about me. Now go and make more of you. Replicate yourself. Let there be more disciples. They had this blank canvas. Like to think about, like the possibilities were endless. There wasn't already this like stereotypical Christian thing they had to worry about. There wasn't like this, oh, I've heard of The Way. I heard that they like to do this kind of music or they like to do that. There wasn't these little like things. It was like this authentic grassroots beginning that it would have been really fun to be a part of, but really challenging. And they were all in. They killed the game. I mean, we wouldn't be here without them, right? And so really interesting though to think about that blank canvas that they had. There's probably more historical significance though as to where they were at, what they were doing. I referenced the Acts 1:8 passage where Jesus is commanding right before he ascends, now go and make disciples of all nations. And he talks about, well, that's Matthew 28, but he talks about in Acts 1 that start in Jerusalem, then Judea, then Samaria, then the ends of the earth, and that geographical growth. And that's what happened. They ended up going to the ends of the earth, but it started in Jerusalem. It's just really interesting to think about, again, just kind of that blank canvas of opportunity that they could just go after. But Frank probably has more thought. He's read more than I have. He looks at me like I haven't, but
I wonder. So you are told to go make disciples, and like you just got, just a masterclass from Jesus on what it means to create disciples, and now you're expected to go like do something similar.
Sure.
I would have I am not like I would have been struggling with that. Like I'm not worthy. No, Jesus, you did it. Like I would struggle with that doubt. So
but at the same time, Jesus said it was by his authority that he told them in the Great Commission. But then in Acts, he says it is by the power of the Spirit you're going to do these things. So they knew that this advocate was going to come, and he does in Acts chapter 2, where that power comes into play. And now they can't help. The power is just overflowing out of them to go and make disciples. And you see Peter, I think it's Peter, right? He has that great sermon right there, and thousands are added to their number. And so it's the Spirit that does the work. And I think that's where multiplying disciples, it's not you who's doing the work. It's the Spirit doing the work through you to multiply disciples. You in and of yourself, Tim and Joe and Frank, we can't make disciples of Jesus, but the Spirit through us can, right? And I think that's where those guys had it figured out, and they experienced that in real tangible ways.
definitely.
Well, one interesting thing is the disciples, a lot of them knew the Old Testament really well. They knew the Torah. They knew what the prophets had said. They know what the Psalms were and what they talked about. And Jesus kind of fills in all the holes. And so I have a Messianic Jew friend up in Seattle area. I've rubbed shoulders, have great conversations. And one of the things he's excited about with Jesus is that Jesus makes the Old Testament make sense. So all of the festivals point to Jesus. All of these stories point to Jesus. All of these illustrations that you see are foreshadowing Jesus. David was talking about Jesus coming.
Yeah.
And so what he spends a lot of his time with his Jewish friends is showing everything that you're learning and memorizing points to Jesus. And I think that's what the disciples did. Hey, that story of Jonah that we talk about? Like that points to Jesus.
Yeah.
It's, so I think that's kind of where the excitement came about with the disciples is everything pointed to Jesus.
Yep.
And all that this messianic king that's going to come on a donkey and that's going to come and die for its people, that points to Jesus. He fulfilled all of the laws and the prophets. And I think that's where the disciples were so excited about it because now the Old Testament made sense.
So, yeah, that's a good word. Well, let's kind of go to maybe the second, I don't know why I said levels, maybe viewpoints is better. Us as a whole, as a church, right, as a corporate church, and I'm actually just going to really, narrow it down to we multiply campuses, and that's something that we as our church believe. So I don't know if you guys want to speak to that. And Frank, I'd totally love to, as somebody who has planted churches and is getting ready to kind of lead the charge in Sunny Valley. Yeah, why do we as a church do that? So
I think it just goes back to the Great Commission. We're basing this principle is based on Jesus saying go, and we feel as River Valley, as staff, as a church, as the body of Christ, our goal is to go and multiply and make more disciples, followers of Jesus. We do that through life groups, through campuses, through building bridges into the community, and so it's definitely it's maybe a little bit different than the grassroots thing that the disciples had. They were doing that word of mouth, very organic, very heavy in using the Old Testament language to point back to Jesus. We're saying, hey, come be a part of the way, be a part of something different, a different way. And Pastor Mark's been using that term a lot lately. This other way. It doesn't have to be right or left. You can be a part of the kingdom of God. And so we have this other way of doing things, and I think that's a part of this excitement of being a part of a local church. And for those who listen, maybe if you're not a part of a local church, one of our campuses, or the local church in California or wherever you're at, it's super important that you plug into your local church, because I think one of the misconceptions is that we say, oh, the pastors are the ones who are going to go multiply disciples. The ones who are on stage will go, they're the ones who will make disciples. And I think it's actually the whole body of Christ that is to make disciples, not only the person who teaches or only the person who has the most Bible knowledge in the room. I think it's actually all of us are called to make disciples, young and old. Yeah. And so I think corporately we do that. And so it's super important. But we base that off of Scripture, of course. But Frank has a lot more experience doing this.
It's because I'm a lot older than you guys.
You're just full of wisdom, my man.
So I would say the church as a whole, the leadership of the church is about equipping the saints for the work of ministry. Mm-hmm. So how do we equip the people in our church to actually make disciples? Number one, we got to be making disciples ourselves.
Right.
And number two, we got to be working with people to show them how to make disciples and to give them something to hold on to as they walk. I always say, give them a track to run on as you're working with someone that's new to Christianity or who wants to grow in their faith. And so we as a church, we can get behind that corporately and say, hey, check out Digging Deeper podcast. You can follow the different campuses and watch the same text being taught by 4 different teachers in 4 different perspectives with 4 different teaching styles. Mm-hmm. And that kind of adds to it. And then you have the idea of doing life group and like living life together and dissecting the sermon and applying it to our lives. That's kind of how we as River Valley have been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that sounds. Yeah, you guys did great. That satisfies my question with that. And
okay, I was going to say, going back to the campuses, one of the cool things about the campuses, we can easily have thousands of people here downtown campus and run like 9 services because of the facility. But the beautiful thing that River Valley's doing is we have multiple campuses in people's community.
Oh yeah.
So not everyone lives downtown, but people live in Murphy.
Right.
People live in Rogue River.
Yeah.
People live in Sunny Valley. People live downtown. People live, we got to get a Cave Junction one going and a Central Point one going.
Right.
Hey, but right now we got Redwood out there. And so this is totally, same.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I came from Redwood.
Well, and the online campus even is a great example of that. There's a lot of folks still dealing with health concerns and the pandemic, and the online campus has been a great campus for a lot of people. It's been ministering to a lot of people. Just by that online presence, it's a viable campus for sure.
Our goal isn't dominion, right? It's
Absolutely.
outreach, it's reaching out, it's connecting with people. And
Absolutely.
so being able to put a campus out there.
And one of the cool things that great conversation we have with people up in Sunny Valley is I love my community. I want to be a part of this community, and I want to invite them to my church. Oh, wait, my church is 25 minutes south of here.
Right.
Like, so for us to go into Sunny Valley and say, hey, here is your church. We can meet here. Now they have something they can invite their friends to that's only going to take 10 minutes to get to as opposed to 30. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Well, now moving on to the end, because as you said, it starts us as a church. We're not multiplying disciples unless us as individuals are multiplying disciples. And so I want to ask your guys' thoughts on that. But I want to share somebody from my life group brought up he didn't say the barrel of monkeys, but the way he described it made me think of a barrel of monkeys. So you're always pulling someone up, and you're always being pulled up by somebody, which I think of a barrel of monkeys, right? So discipleship, you are always getting poured into by somebody, and then you are always pulling somebody up. And so that was just such a great picture. And then, I don't know, as a millennial raised on barrel of monkeys, that's what I thought of. But so what does that look like? And you guys have kind of already addressed this, so maybe we're just packaging it at this point. But on an individual basis, does everyone who's a Christian, should they be discipling one way or another? That might be a question. Like, I'm a Christian, should I be discipling? I don't feel like I should. So I'm kind of throwing that one on the table for you guys.
Yes. You always know more than somebody else. So even if it's as simple as saying, I'm a new Christian and Joe's been around for a while, and Joe's like teaching me about there's two testaments in the Bible and what they are and what the reasoning behind it is and who is this Jesus, and introduce me to the different characters of the Bible. Like that's good. And then I get it from Joe, and then I'm going to go find Anthony over here and talk about Anthony about what I just learned. Like so that's good. It actually helps me retain what Joe just taught me too, because I'm going out and trying to teach somebody else. And I would say perfect example, man, is starting with your kids. If you got kids.
Yeah, that's great. That actually got brought up in my life group last night. Just that idea of that's how they almost interpreted Mark's teaching at downtown Church at Home was it starts with your family.
Right.
And then someone was like, yeah, if you're going to disciple anybody, start with your kids if you have kids. So yeah.
I talked about this at Murphy. The idea of discipleship isn't always what you say. It's a lot of times it's what you do and who you are portraying. Especially with kids, they soak up more than they pick up. And I gave the analogy of my kids. They do things and they have the mannerisms of their mom and dad. They do that better than cleaning their room when I tell them to clean their room, right? Yeah. They don't pick up, hey, I got to clean my room, but they soak up the verbiage, the things. I'll hear my son say, "You punk sisters," and I know where he gets the word punk from. His dad calls people punks. It's kind of just silly how they soak that up. But a question we came up with at our young adult group on Sunday night was, yes, we're always being discipled by someone or something. You might be being discipled by society, by the media you're intaking, but are you being discipled by Jesus and by his followers, those who are following Jesus? So who are you being discipled by? And then the next question was, who are you discipling? Because it is that flow passing through. So you're being discipled in too, but who are you passing it on to? You don't be the dead end. Jesus doesn't allow for dead end disciples. You have to be a pastor. You have to be a channel, a way to pour into the next person. I love what you said, Frank. You know a little bit more than somebody else maybe. Not to be big-headed or like proud of that, but to be such a humble servant, to pass that on. The good news of Jesus should be passed on, right? And so individually, there's an individual responsibility. If you're following Jesus, the Jesus that we see in the Bible, you should be discipling someone else. And a great example is your kids, but it could be your neighborhood, it could be your grandkids, it could be a close friend, it could be a new friend, it could be the regular person you see at the coffee shop. If you know somebody that you see all the time at the coffee shop, it could be anybody. But you got to be thinking about that and praying. And if you don't think you're discipling someone, I'd encourage the listener to be praying about that. God, who would you have me disciple? Who would you have me to disciple today? Who would you have me to pour into? Show me that person, God. I think God will show us. He'll illuminate our eyes to that person if we don't feel like we are.
Yeah, and I think what's important to remember is that for you to disciple somebody doesn't mean you reach out to somebody and then just drop a textbook of knowledge on them. It starts with our ears, I think. It starts so if you don't know if you can disciple, you are listening to them, hearing where they're at, then you're speaking into that process. And so it's just, some people might think, all right, I'm going to go and I'm going to change your life with my wisdom and knowledge. And it's like, well, nah, let's not start a YouTube channel. But like actually sitting down and creating relationship. Sure. And it's this natural process. And this is actually, I want to go here next. I want to flip the needle to you, Frank. And this is the idea of, so I think with discipleship, relational is key. Needs to be relational. Sometimes we can be task oriented. So how do we know if we are multiplying disciples too fast? Because unfortunately, you can train someone up. You think they're ready, you put them out on their own, and it doesn't work. And I'm thinking that in, I don't know why I thought of like a boxing setting. You could train up a boxer, think he's ready, put him in the ring, just gets blasted. You could do that race car. You could just do anything. So how do we know if we're trying to do this too fast? And I think of life groups, campuses, personal relationships. What are some maybe warning signals or red flags?
I would first say, good question, because oftentimes we take discipleship and take too long to do it. But being too fast, that's another ditch you can get into. And I would say probably if you know it's happening too fast is there's no fruit from it. So say you're working with me and you're going to say, hey Frank, I'm going to give you 6 weeks to teach you these things. And after 6 weeks, I'm not replicating what you've taught me, and I'm not going any further, then obviously there's something wrong here and I need more help. So I think that's where you would know. And if I go out and plant Sunny Valley, and it's a legitimate fear of mine, if I go out and plant Sunny Valley and we're out there for a couple of years and nothing ever happens and it fails, and we have to close it down because it doesn't work out, You know, I don't know. I don't know if it was a fail or we were there for a season when it happened. But yeah, when it happens too fast, it usually shuts down. For instance, we're in a life group together, and then we're like, "Hey, Joe, man, we think you got the gift of doing a life group." Joe does a life group and does a season, and no one's supporting Joe from the leadership team. And then after one season, Joe's like, "I'm tapped out. I'm not doing this again." I would say we probably went too fast with Joe.
Yeah.
And we probably need to bring him back in for another season.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the maturity level, and it's not always that the most have to have the most mature people to be disciples of Jesus or to be multipliers of Jesus, of disciples of Jesus. But there is definitely something that if someone ready is the ground fertile, is it ready? I think of the parable of the sower, right? And there's the seeds that get thrown out, and sometimes there's the thorny plant. Sometimes it's the rocky ground, but you're looking for that soil. But at the same time, I also don't think it's ever a waste of time to try to be trying to disciple anybody either. Now, to put them out there to say, hey, now go teach a lesson, or hey, go be a part of our children's ministry, or hey, go plant a campus, that's a different level of seeing that fruit. I think you're talking about, Frank.
Intentionality there.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is if we're talking about making disciples, but we also need to be disciples.
Right.
And so if Joe's going to go out and lead a life group on his own, and we don't think he might be equipped from it, one of the things that Joe would do to show that he's equipped is seeking out a discipling relationship that he get discipled by reaching out to your life group coach and getting help when you need it. You know, I do a lot of counseling, been doing counseling for several years. But when I came on staff at River Valley, I reached out to Doug and said, "Hey, Doug, can you disciple me in counseling?" I've taken a lot of leadership classes. I teach leadership coaching now. But one of the things I just did recently was reached out to Rod, who has a doctorate in leadership, and said, "Hey, can you disciple me in leadership?"
Yeah.
So good disciples are actually seeking to be discipled as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I always like to brag on Rachel, my wife, for you listeners that don't know. When she was in her student teaching, a lot of people will just kind of do their thing. They will try and look impressive and shiny, get hired. What she did in her student teaching was at the school she was at, she reached out to these teachers that had 25 years of experience and said, if you can take a quick break, I'm teaching this lesson. Come watch my lesson as I teach in this class. I want your feedback. I want your critique. And I'm objective, but now she's a fantastic teacher, and it's just like you're reaching out. And that's totally great what you said. Reaching out to others. There's a lot of humility there. One question though, so you'd mentioned maybe discipleship is taking too long. I personally, and maybe we're talking about those specific training areas, but I don't. So maybe we disagree a little bit. I don't know if discipleship can be too long. Because, I was talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, I've been in a discipleship relationship for just friends for 25 years, or that's just like a relationship and they're pouring into each other. But so when you say too long, would you maybe more unpack that a little bit? Because I think I know what you're saying, and I think what I disagree with isn't what you're saying.
Okay. I would say that sometimes there's people in life group that would be great life group leaders, but no one's challenging them to get out and go do something.
So
and
there's
so
an
they're
intentional goal.
Yeah, or say, for instance, a lot of churches that I work with and help and serve and love don't have young people in leadership because they're not ready yet.
Okay.
And so there's that discipling relationship where it's taken forever to put people in leadership to be able to replace yourself. And so the churches start to die because everyone else is like, I'm going to go over here to this church because they can use somebody like me. That's what I meant by taking too long.
And I'm reminded of Jesus healing with the lame man. He said, pick up your mat and go. And I've shared this at Rogue River before. I would totally be when you're ready. I know you've been, paralyzed for years. Whenever you're ready, whenever you feel comfortable, go. And I think what you're saying is sometimes they will never feel ready. But Jesus said, pick up your mat and go, because that is when the fruit, that's when God's glory is going to be seen. So, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. But let's go to that now, and I'm swinging the needle back to you, Joe. Discipleship should be natural, it should be organic, but it also should be very intentional. How do you balance the two? Because I know if somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I'm going to disciple you for 6 weeks, and then, you're going to be ready to rock. Again, if it was that up front, I wouldn't necessarily feel that being very warm. I wouldn't be stoked about that. So how do you balance the natural organicness of a relationship, but also the intentionality behind discipleship?
Yeah, and I think my context to answer this question is primarily based out of discipling like younger generation, high school, middle school students. That's where maybe this is where my philosophy comes up. Is you have to be a friend of theirs first, almost.
Yeah.
There is going to be very rarely is a young person going to say, "I would love for you to tell me more about Jesus," but you are a jerk to me. Like, they're not going to enjoy, if they don't enjoy hanging out with you, they're not going to enjoy the Jesus you serve, probably. So you have to, you yourself, be a warm, awesome friend of theirs. Not always buddy and everything goes, but there definitely needs to be a mutual respect back and forth. And so I think it has to start with a friendship, that relationship. But if you're not intentional with your time with that young person, in the context that I'm working with, if I'm not intentional with my coffee shop time with them, with lunch with them, with our time in small groups together, if I'm not saying, hey, where are you failing? Where are you struggling? And also, where are your strengths and weaknesses? Let's talk through that. Let's work through let's ask the tough questions. There has to be some intentionality in that. It's easy just to be buddy and then leave it at buddy and just be all friends and giggly and throw frisbees around and never actually talk about Jesus. You have to make the tough questions. Where are you at? How's your walk with Christ? Have you been in the Word lately? What questions do you have from the Word? And so pouring into that. But I think with young people, it can be easy to stay in one camp or the other. You can be either too legalistic and just think, oh, it's got to be this agenda. Every time I meet with this kid, it's got to have the 3 points that we go over, and we got to be really strict. Some kids might thrive in that, but like most of the students that I work with, they enjoy having a friend, someone who they can walk alongside of them and hold them accountable and say, keep doing it, and point them to Jesus, and show them how to read the Bible, how to pray, how to use the works of the Spirit in their life. And so I think there is definitely a time and place for being a friend, but also a time and a place to just being very pointed in those. Mostly it's question asking. Frank, I don't know about you. To me, it's that question asking time that I see the most fruit in the disciple making process. And that to me is where you can spend some time is prepping. What questions do I want to ask this young person? And praying through those questions. When I meet with my disciplee, what should I ask them, Lord? What questions are you prompting on my heart? So those are just some ideas of how to maybe be proactive and be planned, so to speak, in the discipleship making process. There's also great resources of books, podcasts, video resources you can use to, hey, let's get together and go through this book together or this video series together. Those are really easy, great entry-level ways to get a discipleship relationship going too.
A book, and I got stuff to say, Frank. A book is a great way, a great buffer. Hey, we're going to go through this book together. That's phenomenal. Yeah, totally.
I was going to say, actually, one of my points at my message from Redwood campus was being natural and intentional in your evangelism and discipleship. And so for me, how you balance the two, when you're being natural, it's, hey, we're going to go watch a movie together, and then afterwards we're going to get ice cream. And while we're getting ice cream after the movie, we'll talk about some of the themes in the movie and how it, points to the Bible. Or easily, you may be having marriage problems, and we're kind of hanging out together, and then that discipleship process happens naturally. But there's also times to be intentional with asking questions or going through a book together or going through a gospel together. Discipling is helping people follow Jesus. And so helping you understand what Jesus says through his word and how to apply it to your lives, that there's an intentional piece to it of, hey, this is the scripture, this is what it means. And then the natural piece is talking about basically, how do you apply it to your life? We do barbecues all the time, and we invite everyone over. We have a night that you guys have attended before for different things. And it's very natural. It's not a Bible study time, but we always get to that kind of stuff, as well as talking about, life, marriage, parenting, weather, sports, your fantasy football team, right?
Sad.
So it's natural because it happens in natural settings. But as Joe said, man, you got to be intentional as far as where you're going with it.
And that's what's cool about walking with the Holy Spirit, right? And I imagine Tani, if you guys don't know Tani, just like when you're walking with the Holy Spirit, like those the Lord is going to present those opportunities. And so I love that. Yeah. When you create, and I go back to our God Space series, like when you create that safe environment, those things will come up. And I think of people in my life where I've just met them, and so obviously there's walls up. So you're not necessarily going to go right to it. You're going to kind of warm up to it. You're going to wade in, but you'll get to a point where you can sit down and all right, hey, here's the deal. I'm just going to shoot you straight because we're there. what's wrong with this? And you have that opportunity, and it's all about just having that discernment in that. And so, yeah. And Frank, I know you and your wife did this very well. When you've created a safe spot for somebody, that's where that discipleship really just blossoms. And how well, you're going to say something, and I'm going to say one more thing. But
okay, I was going to say,
you look ready to rock.
So
I was going to switch gears.
In parenting, I always thought, discipling my kids, let me get my Bible out and let me get this book out, and I'm going to sit down and teach you things, right? And it never worked out the way I wanted to. I always got frustrated because of my kids' attention span, or I came across something what I was trying to teach and they didn't take it serious, or maybe I didn't really understand it fully, so I wasn't teaching it really well. But what I found more meaningful and more impactful was the natural conversations we would have. So we'd be sitting in the car driving, and I wouldn't say anything, and my kids would start talking. And I would listen, and I would ask questions. And we would cover more meaningful things in Scripture on those conversations than we were when I was trying to sit down them and feed them what I wanted to teach them. So...
Yeah, I was going to go a little bit on a soapbox, and if you are part of a multi-level marketing thing, I'm not necessarily talking to you, but how not to disciple. You've been in situations where
bait and switch.
I've when I was younger, I was a part of this multi-level marketing. So basically, if you're unaware, there's a product. You are under somebody, and then if you can get people underneath you, you earn more money. And literally, as we were in one of these trainings, they were saying, yeah, you want to create a friendship with them as quick as possible, and then you want to bait and switch. You want to lure them in, be their friend, and then ask if they want to be a part of this. And so there was just no sincerity to it. And I remember hearing that, I'm just like, man, I don't even do this effectively in my faith. Why am I going to sit here and do this with a healthy energy drink is what it was at the time, 10 years ago or so. And I'm just like, man, and it just you can tell that there's this it's not genuine. And I was like, man. So I know not everybody that's a part of something like that does that, but I have been in situations where somebody reaches out, I'd love to get together, and then you commit, you put a date in the calendar, and they say, by the way, I would love to in this time catch up with you, but also talk to you about my business. And you're just like, no, I don't want to. So that's my soapbox. Well, how not to multiply disciples.
That's happened so many times. Hey, Frank, man, I'd like to pick your brain on this topic. We get together, and it's not about that at all.
Yeah.
It's like their product selling.
Right.
Yeah. I would say one of the cool things about making disciples is that, number one, you love Jesus. Number two, you love people like Jesus loves them. So there is no bait and switch. I'm genuinely interested in you, Tim.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely interested. That's the big one.
I want to be your friend, man.
Right. And if you're in discipleship, it might take a while for your heart to get there, but let it get there. Be genuinely. I mean, we've all talked to people that are not interested, and we've all talked to people that are genuinely interested. Huge difference.
So there's this person in my life with my wife, our family life, who is very hard to love. And very difficult.
About me again.
And not pointing any fingers. No, I'm joking. Very difficult to love. But God kept putting this person in our life over and over again. And my wife was just praying, God, if you want us to be a part of her life and disciple her and be just show us, change my heart. And the cool thing happened is God changed her heart. We got involved in their life, and they're doing well, and we're doing well, and we're good friends now. So it's pretty interesting.
That's super cool. So real quick, maybe this isn't real quick. Why was Jesus so urgent in his instruction to multiply disciples? And for some that might be a really easy question, but I want to unpack it. Let's go a little deeper. So Joe, why?
Why was Jesus himself?
Well, yeah. Why? So why was he so urgent, and why was it such a priority to him?
Well, he knew he only had 3 years to do it. He knew time was short, and I think that's also true of us. I think we take for granted. 2020 taught us not to take it for granted, maybe, but we take for granted that we have 70 plus years to make disciples. I have a whole lifetime to make disciples. I'll do it tomorrow, and we have these great intentions, but. As we know, things can change very rapidly, very quickly. Making disciples in America may look very different 5 years from now, 10 years from now than it does today. So time is short, and we need to take advantage of the day, seize the moment, and go after it. Because people's souls are on the line here. This isn't just a game of like Monopoly or some like strategic game we're playing with our family around the table with like, no worries in the world. This is literally life or death, but it's also a great excitement and a great adventure. So we gotta. I mean, I don't know. It's a fun process to be a part of. It's also a dirty process, like you talked about that friend who's hard to love. It can be a dirty, monotonous, kind of boring sometimes process. Yeah, but if you're so in love with Jesus, you can't help but disciple people. And so, why is it important to do it quickly? I'm not sure. Speed of bringing up disciples is the most important thing. I think it's just being available to be a disciple maker is what's important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Urgencies, because you only had 3 years. I signed up for a church plant, and a friend of mine was doing a church plant in Central Point, needed some help. We signed on for a year, and that 1 year, man, we did an amazing amount of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I was thinking, I only have a year. Right. I only have 6 months. I only have 4 months. And so I was grabbing people left and right, trying to work with them and get them set up and replacing ourselves because we knew we were leaving. And the same thing happened at Redwood. I've been there for 2 years. And when we started Sunny Valley in October, it was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be leaving. I got to replace myself. Mm-hmm. And we got to replace my family. Mm-hmm. So right away, we started trying to find people to put in places to serve. Mm-hmm. So the urgency, man.
Yeah.
You got to...
and Pastor Austin said this just kind of in conversation. He said, man, 2020 was filled with I can't do this, almost as an excuse. Mm-hmm. He's like, 2021, I can. Like, I can't, God can specifically, but like we can and we should and we will. There's like no more excuses kind of thing. So
absolutely.
I think that fits in. Well, as we kind of wrap it up.
I can't go to my gym.
Oh,
still? Oh,
you can run though. As we wrap things up before our resources, and one, maybe 2 sentences, if you guys can, the most important thing in your guys' opinion on discipleship, just the bread and butter of discipleship.
Your own relationship with Jesus. If you yourself are not uniting in the Spirit, being tied to Jesus, walking with Him, being discipled by an older or wiser or farther along Christian, if you yourself are not developing your heart towards Jesus, you will not disciple others. So it comes back to the greatest thing you can do for the world, for your family, in the process of disciple making is your relationship with giving them and your relationship with Christ. And so I think that and overcoming the opposition in your head that makes you think that you have to have all the answers in the Bible before you can go make disciples. I find so many people say, well, I'll go make disciples after I listen to this sermon series, or after I read that book, or after I go to college, or after I take that lecture or that seminar. And yeah, it's like that. I don't know where that stems from. I'm not sure if it's an American mindset that you have to have it all together before you can present or share. But Jesus sent out a bunch of fishermen and tax collectors. They were trained as well as he did, but they were still punks. And one of them betrayed him, and they all left him actually the night of his when he was getting crucified. So, but he still used them. So, go ahead.
And I'd argue one of the more distinguished of the bunch was the one that betrayed him, right? I mean,
sure.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's just so interesting how we can get this mindset that I have to have it all together and before I can go and participate in making disciples. And I would argue you don't have to have it all together. In fact, I think that you should just be yourself, be your authentic self. Show your disciplee, the people you're ministering to, some of the scars of your life, some of the struggles you have. I don't know. I think it doesn't do the disciplee or the person you're discipling any good to always hide your struggles or hide your problems of life and your sin problems. So your relationship with Jesus is super important.
The longest sentence or two ever on.
You're welcome.
No, I appreciate it. Was all.
I couldn't help it.
Yeah. Community growth comes from personal growth.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
It's interesting. Our parenting classes that we teach and our marriage classes that we teach, and even from my sermon from this last week, it's always the personal examples that people relate to the most. Mm-hmm. And people are always saying, "Hey, the personal stories you guys told." Like helped us more in our marriage or helped us more in our parenting. Mm-hmm. So
not always the facts or the things, the headlines.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, people are just like,
how do you live it out?
Yeah.
So most important thing, I echo what Joe said, man. You gotta be plugged into Jesus. You gotta abide in the vine, man. That's the most important thing.
Real quick for the listeners, what was that? Abide in the vine.
Abide in the vine.
I thought you said abide and divide, and I was like,
Oh, abiding in the vine.
Yeah, abide in the vine. All right, I just wanted to, yeah.
I was trying to get cute with my language.
No, and it worked. It worked. I like you. So, all right. Well, hey, let's keep digging. Let's give something for the listeners if they're still listening. Something to chew on.
If they're still
I hope
listening.
Frank's mom's still listening at least. Like,
All right.
Hey, Mom, if you're still listening, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
oh,
I'm going to go see her this weekend.
All right. I really hope you're listening, Anna. Right? Anna? Yeah. All right. So, Frank, start us off. Resources for just this idea of discipleship.
Yeah, one of the coolest resources that I found is 9 Marks does a fantastic job of doing these little books called 9 Marks of a Healthy Church. There's actually 12 books now because they've done prayer and missions and stuff. And so taking someone through those little books, there's actually one by Mark Dever called Discipling. Awesome books. I used to give those away to church members all the time. So it's good stuff. And I just actually read 3 of them today preparing for this.
Wow.
So they're
awesome.
short reads,
Okay. Cool.
like 50, 60 pages, 70 pages.
And so one more time, that was nine marks.
9 Marks.
Okay.
that's the name of the series. 9 Marks. Then
Yeah,
like it's like
9 Marks of a Healthy Church.
okay. Wow. I really appreciated Francis Chan's books. Multiply. He has
Great book.
It's a great book. It's a simple read. It's
Great
easy.
video series too.
Well, it's a whole package deal. If you're looking to start a discipleship relationship or friendship or small group or whatever, that book can walk you through questions and content and walk you through the whole. It's a great resource. Matt Chandler just wrote a book. I'm not sure if you've read this one yet, Frank. Family Discipleship.
Nope.
Matt Chandler, Adam Griffin. Great, quick read.
Yes, I just bought it. I just got it.
You're gonna like that one.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
read it yet.
good
Say props
stuff.
to you for getting a book that Frank has not read
Well,
yet. But
Well,
I have it. I own it.
half a point.
And then if you have students or young people and that you are ministering to, or you have teenagers in your home, I recommend Faith for Exiles, David Kinnaman, Mark Matlock. They just put that out, I think, right at the end of 2019. And great resource on how to disciple in a digital Babylon, they call it. Very interesting ideas on how to use technology. What are some marks of a true disciple of Jesus in this day and age, in this culture, this society of American society. Really interesting, good stuff. Check that one out.
If you're interested on making disciples and you're like, I still don't know what I need to do next, reach out to me. fmats@rivervalleycc.org. I'd love to meet with you and give you some more tools.
Yeah. And also, I was going to kind of brag about you real quick off your top of your head. 2020, how many books did you read? Do you?
Oh, geez. Over 150 easily.
Okay, yeah, great. And I'm not saying that for him to brag, but just a great resource. So whether it's
Well read.
the address that he just said, or hit me up, I know how to connect you with him. Just a great resource, not just on this topic, but on many topics.
Absolutely.
So, gentlemen, always a pleasure
Thank you,
to have
Tim.
you guys on
Good
here.
stuff.
It'll happen again. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week as we finish, sadly, our core values series with Invite and Include.
Aw.
But it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So, all right, until next time, catch you guys later.
Bye.